this is what we've been waiting for, is to get this opportunity to play for this state championship. And now we're here. But he's had a couple big runs this season for us. But it was a great job at the point of attack of our offensive line.
Franchini, play fake, looking, going deep. Tyson's open, pitch and catch, touchdown.
Right now, it's whatever it takes.
This is the Chuck Smith Show on Cape Atlantic Live, presented by Ulmer's Appliance Service. Now, here's Coach Smith and your host, Nick Kosko.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Chuck Smith Show right here on Cape Atlantic Live, presented by Ulmer's Appliance Service. I'm your host, Nick Kosko. With me, as always, is head coach Chuck Smith. Week to week, and Coach, much better feeling this week here with a win over Ocean City. Battle for the Bridge goes back to Mainland for the second straight year. 14-0 victory over the Red Raiders. You guys improved to 4-2. They dropped to 4-2 as well. You guys move up to now number 3 in Saturday Group 3. I know that there's pending a Monday night result, but which maybe could slightly affect things. But as of right now, you guys moved up in the playoffs. So everything's coming up Mainland ahead of another rivalry game against the EHT on Thursday.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. It was a big bounce-back win for us. Against a very tough opponent, of course. You know, when you have your arch rival come into your house after you just lost the game, you can't sit there and rest on your laurels for a long time. You got to get right back to work, and the kids did. And it was a tremendous football game all around, especially if you like defensive football. I mean, that's what was in store last Friday night at the Mustang Corral. But the kids responded well, and I thought our defense probably played its best game of the season thus far. Holding Ocean City to 30-some yards rushing, 119, I think it was, passing. But it was tremendous effort by our defense to put us in a position to win that game.
When you talk about this defensive effort, again, the shutout, everyone's going to look at that and point out and say it was a great defensive effort. But in a game where the offenses on both sides were a bit sluggish, and then you look at Ocean City's defense really limiting your running attack. I know there's been a running back rotation. Rocco came back in the second half, and then the passing game wasn't totally opened up in the first half. But what kind of credit do you give to your defense for keeping you guys in the game, especially in that first half where it was kind of just going back and forth?
Yeah, we really put a lot on our defense. We had a couple of red zone opportunities in the first half that we could have scored on, the opening drive of the game, and again in the second quarter there. And, we didn't cash in. And, you can't squander those opportunities that often, especially against good opponents like Ocean City. And, we put it right back on our defense again and again and again. And they held tight. Ocean City has a big physical offensive line, powerful quarterback in the run game, is a good passer. And our defense just stayed solid all night, even a couple of times when they had the opportunity to drive the ball on us. They made some big plays, whether it was via sack or an interception, that really help us maintain control of the football game.
I'm looking at the ending, and we'll get into highlights in a little bit. I'm looking at that ending sequence of the first half where you guys were driving. You had an opportunity in their territory, 4th and goal, trick play, a bit of a Philly special type play, did not work, but then you guys still held them at midfield again. We'll look at the highlight in a second. What was going through your head and the team's head right there where you guys were knocking on the door and thinking, if you finally get this touchdown, we're finally going to get it rolling, but they were able to stand you up right there at the 2-yard line, and then your defense had to go back to work?
Yeah, it's tough, man. It was the second time we were in the red zone. We didn't score, and we're usually very efficient in the red zone. And that was very frustrating because we had the ball down low. And, credit to Ocean City's defense. I mean, they really put up a wall down there and wouldn't let us get in there. Nothing was easy. We tried pass plays, run play, whatever. But that's a tribute to them and their play and their kids not giving up, even though their backs were against the wall. But we came out of that, and, of course, I was a little down on that, not being able to score because that's 14 points that were on the board we could have had that we didn't. And, when you're in those tight games, those missed opportunities a lot of times come back to bite you in the rear end. Mm-hmm. And we were fortunate because of our defense that those things didn't come back to haunt us. Our defense held tight, and Ocean City got a little momentum after that too and drove the ball a little bit down the field as the half was expiring.
The game MVP to me, it's hard to pick out one. I know Rocco DiBiaso came back from injury, played linebacker in the first half, then went back to both ways in the second half. So he obviously had a big impact on the game. Matt Mewett still, which is more of a credit to your defense. He was seemingly all over the place. I think I called his name maybe close to 10 times on Friday night. Again, we'll look at the highlight where he helped force an interception. But along with him and some of your other defensive linemen, especially, we call them the big uglies. What can you say about them finally getting that push on offense, and of course, eventually the pressure, which even more pressure in the second half to affect Ocean City's high-powered offensive attack, where they can really air out the ball too.
Yeah, we it's a tribute to our defensive efforts. Really a tribute to our defensive coaches and the kids. Don't get me wrong, but our defensive coordinator Tim Watson did a great job with the game plan. Antoine Lewis coaches our defensive line, and he does just an unbelievable job with those boys, always having them ready week in and week out with them. And Ted Gogol coaches our secondary, and did a nice job there also. But our defensive line really has been led all year by two guys. TJ McBall, our nose guard, who really is coming to his own this year. And, he's a big boy. He's 6'4", 320 pounds. And there's never a lack of hustle with him. Even if the ball gets outside, he's in pursuit trying to get there. He's not the fastest kid in the world, but his effort level is exceptional. And then Matt is an undersized guy, 5'8", 205 about. And he's just got a motor that doesn't stop. He's like the Energizer bunny. He never quits ever. He could fall down in pursuit of a play. He gets back up and he's in a full sprint again. And even when the play's away from him, he had a play the other night where they hit a pass on us in the fourth quarter. And the Ocean City player broke a tackle, and Matt made the tackle like 30 yards downfield. It was a big hit, because that kid could have possibly made that into an even bigger play. But he's been great all season long. And I know a lot of people overlook him because of his size, but he just is a tremendous defensive line player for us this past year.
Yeah, Matt kind of reminds me of a great high school linebacker you just had in J.J. Sinclair. But you said Energizer Bunny, and that seemed to be what J.J. was for 4 years in the program. Then I was watching TJ from up in the booth, and he is just going nuts. I mean, you want to talk about emotional. Is he one of those emotional leaders on defense, considering he doesn't really play both ways that often, but he's basically the anchor of that defensive line? Is he one of your more emotional leaders on the team?
Yeah, he's a very quiet young man. He's very humble. You don't hear much from him in practice. I mean, you notice him, don't get me wrong. He destroys our offense all the time because he goes over and plays scout team defense. But on the field when it's game day, he really wears his emotions on his sleeve. He doesn't do that during the week at all. He's not one of those, rah-rah guys. He does it by example. But on the field, he really, really displays his emotions and his love for his teammates and love for the game out there. And Matt, speaking of Matt real quick, Matt was awarded the homecoming game MVP trophy after the game because of his effort in the game. And Matt's a guy who doesn't come off the football field either. He starts at left guard for us on offense, does a great job there, but you really notice him on defense.
We're going to get into some defensive highlights right now. We'll start with Rocco DiBiase, who I mentioned before. This is a huge sack right here at midfield, pushing Ocean City back, and then pretty much deny the scoring opportunity at the end of the half.
Yeah, that was Ocean City. That was after we didn't score, and Ocean City started to move the ball a little bit on us, had a little bit of momentum going. And a tribute to our defense, too, we held Ocean City over on third down attempts the other night, which is really big, And Rocco just, he's coming back from a nagging leg injury from the Cherokee game, missed the prep game, played mostly on the defensive side the other night, but didn't look like he was hurt on that play, came right through there, made a big sack before the half, to give us an opportunity to get the ball back.
And we'll look at this other highlight, which was later in the game. You guys are up 7-0, but again, Ocean City driving, but another great job by your defense and the aforementioned Matt Mewitz forcing this interception to Nathan Rivera.
Yeah, there you can see it right there as the right before the quarterback releases the football. Matt explodes through the offensive line and really causes that interception with his hit on the quarterback because it alters the flight of the football. And, Nate Rivera, who is our junior strong safety, made a great play just to get that turnover for us. That was the first of our interceptions that night. We had two of them, Cleve Foster having the other one. But that was big too because Ocean City was driving, as you can see. They're down around our 35-yard line. And they had a little bit of momentum going there, and that was a big swing for us just to stop that and have another opportunity to take some time off the clock and move the chains.
When you talk about how Mainland and how you guys have operated since, winning a state championship last year and most of this year through your first 6 games, it's been the run offense is there, The passing offense has excelled in most spots this year. Defense has played pretty well, but was this the type of performance that you need to see out of your defense, considering the top two teams that you've played so far? Millville obviously ran away with it in the end, and then St. Augustine Prep, it kind of controlled the game on their offensive end of things, particularly in the run game. Was this the type of a game that you guys needed to see out of your defense going into this stretch run of the regular season?
Well, yeah, every week we strive to get better. That's one of our goals, our weekly goals, always to get better from the week before, no matter what it is. And, when you're getting down here into the latter parts of the season, you want to be ready for when the big games start happening. Not that these games aren't big games, and that was a tremendous effort by our defense against a really good opponent who, were 4-1 entering the game, had some big wins also themselves, are right in the mix in the playoff hunt with us too. It's one of those games that, could have gone either way really for a long part of that game, with us not scoring early on and them driving the ball a few times, if they wind up scoring, it could be the other side of this thing. That's how it usually is when we play Ocean City, and there's a chance, we could possibly see them again postseason, so, it was a great victory. It was a great step up for our team after the St. Augustine loss, but the kids were over it, even though it was Ocean City. It's a big game, and, keep the Battle of the Bridge Trophy for another year at the Corral, and homecoming and all that stuff. But once Saturday's film session was over, it was all right, let's move on to EHT,
And that's what we're going to do right now. So as you mentioned, Battle for the Bridge Trophy still in your possession. I think it made the rounds at Charlie's Bar as well. So shout out to one of the big sponsors of the football program. EHT, now you guys go on the road. It's a short week for you guys, Thursday night this week. They're rolling a little bit this year. They're coming off a big win over Lower Cape May. They're 4-2, year 2 under Rob Davis, who used to coach over at Barnegat. Now, they struggled last year with even just getting wins on the field, numbers a little bit, but the program seems to be back on the upswing. There's much more participation. Again, they are also 4-2, playing in a tough Group 5. Now, whether they sneak into the playoffs, it remains to be seen, but it seems like this is a hungrier EHT team, and obviously things are starting to come together a little bit with the talent they have assembled on both sides of the football.
Yeah, Coach Davis is doing a good job over there trying to rebuild that program. Been down for a little while over there at EHT. It takes a little bit of time to rebuild a program. I was much like that 9 years ago at Mainland, trying to rebuild the Mainland program. And you just have to have patience and, look at the bigger picture than the quick picture. And that's hard to do sometimes because we're all, driven by the wins. And sometimes, you really got to sit back and look at the longer vision of developing a program. And I think Coach Davis is doing that over there. You can see their numbers are up from what they were last year. You can see the guys are a lot bigger than they were last year. And, they've probably been in the weight room nowadays, had a full year with the kids in the off season. He's got some talent out there. He's got some young players playing some positions. But, they're a Group 5 team that could potentially be a big powerhouse in Group 5 down the road, I think. And they're one of those teams that, the way the West Jersey does their scheduling, from being down for a little bit, they get a little bit of relief in scheduling. And that's good because now they're getting a chance to build the program up, get the kids getting confidence in playing football there instead of being discouraged. And, they're getting some wins and they're having a nice season right now. They're 4-2, coming off a couple of wins here, and, it won't be easy and nothing ever is for us. And, but, we know it'll be a challenge. It's kind of that, Ocean City rivalry's up here and EHT is probably like right over here, and, it's always fun. It's fun to go out to EHT. It's a close ride. A lot of people know each other, and from the old Thanksgiving Day game and stuff like that, there's still a little bit of that tied to it. Even though we haven't done that in a few years now. And it's always nice to go out to EHT because it's like playing at a Division III college, with the facilities that they have with the stadium and the bleachers and the whole setup, the concession stand, the locker rooms separated, set right there at the football field. It's really a neat venue to play a high school football game at, and hence why they had Battle of the Beach games there this year, but Coach Davis is doing a nice job there, building that team up, and, they're tough, man. The quarterback's a big kid, his brother plays tight end H-back, you could see the chemistry between them, between a quarterback and a receiver there. They're big up front, And EHT does tend to have a lot of big kids just because of the makeup of their school. But these kids, you can see they're being coached well too.
Yeah, certainly on the rise. It's a drastic difference from 2023 to 2024. And the guys you just mentioned, Xavier Kachi and Max Kachi, they're only sophomores, and they're only going to probably get better and bigger. Xavier's over at quarterback. He's thrown 5 touchdowns this year, but he's also a dual threat. Has run for over 400 yards and 8 touchdowns on the ground. And of course, Max, not only is he a good fullback and tight end, he is their leading tackler with 63 tackles at that linebacker spot. Noah Dawkins, another guy, a senior running back, very dangerous on the ground with 7 scores this year. When you look at the way they attack the offensive side of things, because they have a dual threat quarterback, but it seems like they're throwing it a lot more than I've seen in recent years. But again, you have guys who can run the football, including the quarterback, including Dawkins, a running back. Are you going to try to defend them perhaps similarly to what Ocean City brought to the table with a guy like Walker Bailey, who was a dual threat quarterback, and they can pound the rock, but they can also air it out?
They're similar but different in a way. I mean, this kid's a big kid. I hope he doesn't keep growing. He's a big boy, and when he gets running the ball, man, he's tough to bring down. We watched a lot of film on him the past couple of days, and when he gets his wheels rolling and gets through to the next level, not many kids have been successful in trying to bring him down. But he is a true dual threat quarterback. He runs it as much as he's throwing it, and they have some nice weapons too. Some nice big long receivers. Like we mentioned before, his brother playing that tight end H-back type of role too, where he's getting out in the passing game a lot too, and he's even bigger than the quarterback. And they have that nice little running back there too, and he's the juice of that offense, But you can see they're running a system, running a scheme, and they don't do a lot of things, but the things they do well because they get a lot of reps at it.
On the other side of things, you mentioned the big boys up front. I'm sure they have the same thing in the trenches, and especially in that front seven. Again, we already mentioned Max Kachi, one of their linebackers, along with Tyler Durham. I believe he's also in that linebacker, maybe a hybrid role in that defense. But they are pretty big. Are they one of the bigger teams that you'll face all season? You mentioned Millville, obviously, huge defensive line. Cherokee was a big squad, and the Prep had a lot of big kids as well. Is this perhaps the biggest team in terms of physical size that you'll see all year, or at least up there?
Well, I hope there are any more bigger teams. That's for sure. It just seems like every week we roll out, seems like another team just is bigger than the team we played the week before that. I got to find out what these other places are feeding their kids. We can get some of that over at Mainland. But yeah, they're a big team. And from going to EHT usually has some big kids out there.
Oh yeah.
But this is a big team. They are a big team, and you can tell they've been in the weight room. They're a lot different than they were last year with the makeup. You can just see it the way they get off the football, what they're doing with their blocking and all that. And you could tell, he's had a good off season with the kids. They're stronger up front, but they're going to be a force to be dealt with on Thursday night.
As far as what this game means, it was the Thanksgiving Day rivalry for so long, and again, I believe this is actually by the way what their jersey says, this is the 40th year for EHT as a program, so they've been around for such a long time. And it's actually mind-boggling that it's 4 decades at this point. But you guys were longtime rivals with them on that final game of the season. That has since gone away over the last, I think, 4 or 5 years now. Ocean City is always your biggest rival, but you and I have talked multiple times before about how Egg Harbor Township is that next one up, where it's always about beating Ocean City, but then you always have to you have to beat EHT on your schedule as well. Going to this place, going back in what could be considered a bigger atmosphere than maybe what it was last year or even the year before when you guys played them at Battle of the Beach. Going to their place, does this game have more of a mystique to it again? Yeah,
I think so because they're having a good year. The last couple of years we've kind of been on the high horse, and they were kind of on the other side of it. So it's exciting that they're having a good year too, because they'll bring more people to the game, makes the game that much more exciting. 2 4-2 teams going in there. A lot of playoff implications for both teams. Us playing them, and of course them also trying to get into the playoff hunt. And I know that's a big thing for them to beat us. A team that's got some wins and some power points behind it. But it's crazy to think back. I played in the first game at EHT on Thanksgiving. That was the first game actually at the high school, because they only played Thanksgiving game there as a home game, and that was 40 years ago already. And it's weird to me because when Mainland played EHT. That was our first year, my senior year of the Thanksgiving Day game, because we had always played Oakcrest before that since the 60s. And, for me, it wasn't a big rivalry because I always thought of Oakcrest as being a Thanksgiving Day game. But as I was at Mainland through the the late 80s and in the 90s, you could see that all of a sudden that rivalry developed. And, it was when EHT really got it going, under Coach DeRosa and Coach Schultz, when those guys had those really good teams in the 90s. And, they're winning Group 3 championships and stuff like that. And all of a sudden it became really a more of a bigger game than what it was beforehand. And I think because of the tradition of both schools and football during those times, and even into the 2000s when Coach DeRosa took a couple teams to the finals, he was there in 2001 or 2, and again in the 2009 or 10, something like that. It always added to the game. There was always a year or two where somebody got the better of somebody else. But for the most part, it was pretty much a battle, but it's neat to think that. And it's one of those things, like I've said before, when they come out and you send to West Jersey, your games that you would like to keep, it's always Ocean City and EHT we put on our list, and those schools do the same thing because we want to just keep those connections all the time. If you play 7 other teams, so be it, but we always want to keep those rivals as well as we can year in, year out.
And fitting enough, you're going to play on back-to-back weeks. Win last week, and we'll see how it turns out on Thursday. Coming to the end of the regular season, and Coach, I'll leave you here with this one. As you have EHT this week, Winslow, they're rolling. I know we'll talk about them next week. They're coming to town in Linwood next Friday night, and then you guys go to Delsea, the defending Group 3 state champions. So we've said ad nauseum how the schedule just never gets any easier this year. But with 3 games left, playoffs are in mind. You guys are trying to stay high up the Group 3 standings right now, perhaps make a move for one of those top 2 seeds. When you talk about crunch time going down the rest of this way, again, it's always one game at a time, but is there more of a sense of urgency, or do the kids and the staff, do they feel it knowing that you guys have 3 more games to make your mark before you get into playoff mode and ultimately try to do what you did last year?
Yeah, I think, right now we're concentrating week to week, obviously. But, our goal is to have home playoff games. And, we will be in one of those top seeds in Group 3. And the only way to do that is to close out strong here at the end with the final 3 games. And we got some really tough opponents coming up. You got EHT having the best season they've had in a long time, followed up by Winslow, who's undefeated. And, they smacked Millville a couple weeks ago, and they just seem to be on a roll. Just one of those really elite type of football teams right now this year. And, you have Delsea, who, if you look at their record, it isn't that, awesome or anything. But at the same time, they're defending champs. And their games, they have a tough schedule also, and their games are not blowouts that they're losing by. And I'm sure there could be a more than a formidable opponent when we get to that point, But, like we were saying, this season being such a grind of a schedule, it's about surviving week to week, trying to be as healthy as you possibly can. And like even this week with a very short week after a very physical game on Friday night, we've kind of taken our foot off the pedal a little bit, let the kids have a little bit more time to rest, ease back on practice, what we're doing a little bit. We're never going to practice all the way through to the game. But usually, we have a kickback practice the day before. We're not even going to do that. We're going to practice through it, but alter it, obviously, because we can't be out there pounding away nonstop with another big game against a physical opponent coming up. And then we got to get through that and get ready for the next one, But it's about closing out strong here. We want a home playoff game, and we could try to get 2. That'd be great, or 3. That'd be awesome. But we got to take it one game at a time, like everybody always says.
One game at a time, survive and advance, as the great and late Jim Valvano always said for NC State. So survive and advance, Coach, and it begins, or it continues, on Thursday night at EHT. That game, I believe, at 6 p.m. on the road. I'll be keeping track of it, of course. That's my alma mater. But you guys have grown on me a little bit the past couple of years. Don't worry, it should be a good one. Always Mainland EHT rivalry, one of the best in South Jersey. Good luck on Thursday, and we'll talk again next week.
Thanks a lot, Nick. Really appreciate it.
It's the Chuck Smith Show right here on Cape Atlantic Live, presented by Ulmer's Appliance Service. We'll see you next week.